For over 50 years, the moon has been just a distant memory, something humanity once visited but never returned to. The Apollo missions were a triumph of science and engineering, but they were just the beginning, and now that vision is coming back to life. NASA's Artemis program is leading the charge to bring astronauts back to the lunar surface, and this time they're not alone. They've teamed up with SpaceX, the company revolutionizing space travel, to build the most ambitious moon mission in history. With cutting edge technology, a new generation of spacecraft, and a bold vision, NASA and SpaceX are preparing to send humans farther than ever before. But how exactly do they plan to do it? How will Starship, a rocket originally designed for Mars, safely land on the moon? What challenges will astronauts face on this journey? And how does the mission pave the way for an even bigger goal? In this video, we'll break down everything you need to know about the Artemis program, SpaceX's role, and the groundbreaking technology that will take us back to the moon and beyond. Buckle up, because the future of space travel starts now. For decades, the idea of returning to the moon seemed like a distant dream, but in 2017, NASA officially announced the Artemis program, an ambitious plan to land humans on the moon once again, this time with a long-term presence. Named after Apollo's twin sister in Greek mythology, Artemis represents a new era of space exploration, one that aims to go farther, stay longer, and prepare for Mars. But what exactly is the Artemis program, and how will it unfold? The journey begins with Artemis 1, an uncrewed test flight designed to push NASA's new Space Launch System, Rocket and Orion spacecraft to their limits. This mission will travel beyond the moon, proving that Orion can handle deep space travel before humans step aboard. It's essentially a stress test. If all goes well, then it will clear the way for astronauts to follow. Then comes Artemis 2, the first crewed mission, where astronauts will fly around the moon but won't land just yet. This mission will be a crucial test run for deep space human travel, ensuring that Orion's life support systems can sustain a crew in lunar orbit. It will also mark the first time that humans have traveled beyond low Earth orbit in over 50 years. But the real milestone will come with Artemis 3. This is where history will be made. For the first time since 1972, humans will set foot on the moon, and this time there will be a major difference. They won't be alone. NASA is sending astronauts to the lunar South Pole, a region never explored before by humans. And this time, NASA wants to stay, build, and prepare for the future. So how do they plan to make this? Well, one key element is the Lunar Gateway, a planned space station orbiting the moon. This mini space station will serve as a hub for astronauts, providing a place to dock, refuel, and conduct experiments before heading to the surface. It will also serve as a stepping stone for future missions to Mars and beyond. It will also include partnerships with private companies. Unlike Apollo, Artemis is relying on SpaceX and other commercial partners to make lunar exploration cheaper and more efficient. And SpaceX's Starship will be the lander that takes astronauts from lunar orbit down to the surface. But Artemis isn't just about stepping on the moon. It is a stepping stone to greater aspirations. Everything NASA learns from Artemis is preparing them for their ultimate goal, a mission to Mars. And speaking of Starship, how does SpaceX's revolutionary spacecraft fit into this plan? That is what we are covering next. NASA is leading the Artemis program, but the most critical piece of the mission isn't coming from NASA, it's coming from SpaceX. In 2021, NASA awarded the SpaceX the contract to build the human landing system for Artemis 3. That means that when astronauts step onto the moon for the first time in over 50 years, they won't land in a NASA-built module like the Apollo lunar module. Instead, they'll descend in a modified version of SpaceX's Starship, the same rocket that Elon Musk plans to use for Mars. Most lunar landers are single-use. They land, serve their purpose, and are left behind. But Starship is different. It is designed for full reusability, which could dramatically cut costs over time. Instead of building a new lander for each mission, Starship could be used repeatedly, changing how we approach space travel. And then there's the issue of the size. Apollo's lunar module was small and designed for 2 astronauts. Starship is massive by comparison. It's built to carry up to 100 passengers. Artemis 3 doesn't need that capacity, but future missions might. So Starship has room to grow. And that size, however, brings complications. Starship is about 50 meters tall. Astronauts can't just step onto the surface. Instead, they will need to descend using an elevator system. It's a bold and unconventional solution, but it could redefine how humans explore planetary surfaces if it works. And of course, there is the issue of refueling in space, because getting to the moon is one thing, but getting back is another. Starship needs fuel for the return journey, and no refueling stations exist on the moon. So the answer is to refuel in Earth orbit before departure. So SpaceX is developing orbital refueling technology, where multiple starships launch, transfer fuel in microgravity, and allow the lunar lander to reach its destination with a full tank. It is a complex challenge, but it will be a game changer if SpaceX succeeds. The same system could be used for Mars missions, turning refueling into a routine part of space travel. NASA wants a sustainable human presence on the moon, while SpaceX wants to colonize Mars, but right now their objectives align. NASA gets a powerful, cost-effective lunar lander, and SpaceX gets to refine Starship for deep space missions. This is a high-stakes partnership. Artemis depends on Starship, and Starship is still unproven in deep space. Lunar landings, space-based refueling, long-duration reliability, these are all hurdles which must be cleared before astronauts can set foot on the moon. But if SpaceX pulls this off, it won't just change the Artemis program, it will change the future of human spaceflight. Getting to the moon isn't just about building and launching a rocket. It is an engineering, logistical, and survival challenge unlike any other. And while the Apollo missions made it seem almost effortless, the reality is much more complex. Artemis and SpaceX's Starship face major hurdles before humans can safely return to the lunar surface. But what are the biggest challenges standing in the way? First, there is the distance problem. The moon is about 384,000 kilometers away from Earth. Unlike the International Space Station, which is just a few hundred kilometers above us, the moon is too far for quick rescues if something goes wrong. Astronauts on Artemis missions will need to operate independently, relying only on what they bring with them, and any technical failure, whether it's a communication issue, an oxygen leak, or a spacecraft malfunction, could turn deadly. Second, the moon is an extreme place. There's no atmosphere, no protection from solar radiation, and the temperatures can swing from negative 250 degrees Fahrenheit to about 250 degrees Fahrenheit on the other side. And one of the biggest risks is radiation exposure. Without Earth's magnetic field to shield them, astronauts will be vulnerable to cosmic rays and solar storms. NASA is working on radiation shielding in spacesuits and lunar habitats to keep astronauts safe. And then there's the problem posed by moon dust. Lunar dust is fine, sharp, and highly abrasive. It sticks to everything and can damage equipment and even harm astronauts' lungs. Scientists are developing dust-resistant materials and air filtration systems to combat this issue. And third, there is the issue of fueling and landing on the moon. Because unlike Apollo, which used a small lunar module, Starship is a giant rocket that must land safely on the moon's surface. Landing such a massive spacecraft is a serious challenge, and the moon's gravity is only 1/6 of the Earth's, meaning that Starship needs precise thruster control to avoid crashing or kicking up massive dust clouds that could damage equipment. NASA and SpaceX are testing precision landing technologies that use lasers and cameras to help Starship land smoothly. And fourth, there is the issue of long-term sustainability. If humans are going to stay on the moon, then they'll need food, water, and shelter. NASA and its partners are looking at in situ resource use using lunar ice to extract water and even create rocket fuel. But before any of that happens, NASA and SpaceX must first overcome these challenges and prove that the moon is within reach. And if they succeed, what's next? That's what we'll explore in the next section: the future of lunar exploration. NASA and SpaceX are not just planning one historic mission, they're laying the foundation for a permanent human presence beyond Earth. But what does that future look like, and how does it connect to even bigger ambitions like Mars and beyond? First, the moon is a stepping stone to Mars. The Artemis program isn't about revisiting the moon, it's about learning how to live and work in deep space. Every challenge astronauts face on the moon, radiation exposure, resource shortages, and extreme temperatures, will prepare us for Mars. And NASA envisions a future where the moon becomes a training ground. Future lunar bases will allow astronauts to test new life support systems, experiment with space farming, and develop sustainable fuel sources, which are all essential for Mars missions. And the more we learn on the moon, the more realistic that Mars colonization becomes. That is why Artemis isn't just a mission, it is the first step in humanity's future beyond Earth. So we must build a lunar base, because unlike Apollo, Artemis isn't about a series of quick visits. This goal is about establishing permanence. NASA plans to establish an Artemis base camp, a lunar outpost where astronauts can live, work, and explore for extended periods. It will include habitats, rovers, and power systems, giving astronauts everything they need to operate independently. And the key to their survival is water. The lunar South Pole is believed to contain frozen water ice in permanently shadowed craters. And if scientists can extract and purify it, then it could be used for drinking, oxygen production, and even rocket fuel. And then there is the issue of SpaceX and its role in the long-term vision. Because NASA isn't going alone, it's bringing other companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin along with it. And they will play a major role in lunar cargo transport, habitat construction, and technology development. SpaceX's Starship will not just be a lander, it could become a transport system for lunar cargo, ferrying supplies to and from the moon. And Elon Musk has also hinted that Starship could play a role in future lunar colonies. The moon may even become a hub for commercial space travel, mining, and also tourism. Some companies are already exploring the possibility of extracting rare minerals from the moon, while others envision luxury lunar hotels in the distant future. But before any of this can happen, NASA and SpaceX must prove that humans can thrive on the moon. And if Artemis succeeds, that it won't just change space exploration, it will change the course of human history. And from there, the next stop is Mars. Thus, the era of interplanetary travel is just beginning. For the first time in over half a century, humans are preparing to return to the moon, but this time it's different. NASA's Artemis program, with SpaceX as a key partner, is setting the stage for a new era of space exploration. With Starship acting as the lunar lander, the Artemis missions will pave the way for long-term human presence on the moon, and the ultimate goal will be to use the moon as a stepping stone for Mars and beyond. But before that can happen, there are huge challenges to overcome, from landing safely to surviving the harsh lunar environment. NASA and SpaceX are racing against time to ensure that Artemis 3 succeeds and that humans set foot on the moon once again. And if they succeed, it will not just be another milestone, it will be a huge turning point in human history. The moon will become a launchpad for interplanetary travel, and the dream of reaching Mars may become closer than ever. The space race of the 21st century is on, and this time, the destination isn't only the moon, it's the future of humanity among the stars. And if you're excited about the future of space travel, then hit that like button and subscribe for more. With Elenarda, I'm Gene Botkin, end transmission.